Some betrayals don't arrive with a fight. They don't come with raised voices or slammed doors. They arrive quietly, like a credit card notification on your birthday. Like a hotel suite number you recognize. Like the sound of a dress you bought her, still on, when she walks through the door at midnight with mascara running down her face and nothing left to say. My name is Elliot Harrington. And the night I lost my marriage was the same night I realized I had never truly known the woman I built my life around. What I did next, she never saw coming. I'm 47 years old. I own a commercial plumbing and HVAC company out of Columbus, Ohio. 31 employees. 2 service trucks. More pipe running under this city than most people will ever know about. I built it from a single van and a tool belt when I was 26 years old. No investors, no safety net, just calloused hands and a stubborn refusal to quit. I married Naomi when we were both young enough to believe love was a plan, not just a feeling. We had 2 children, Tyler, now 20, finishing his second year at Ohio State. Avery, 19, studying graphic design out in Denver. Sharp kids. Good kids. They got the best of both of us, and maybe a little from somewhere neither of us could explain. For 21 years, I thought we had what most men my age quietly envy when they look across the dinner table at someone else's marriage. Not perfect. Nothing is. But solid. The kind of thing you stop worrying about because it's just there, the way you stop checking the foundation of a house after you've lived in it long enough. I stopped checking too soon. The night. My birthday falls on the 3rd Thursday of April. I had made the reservation at Brickstone Grill 3 weeks in advance. Corner table. The one near the window that Naomi always claimed was the best seat in any restaurant she'd ever been in. I called ahead and asked them to hold a bottle of the Barolo she loved, the one we'd opened on our 15th anniversary, the one she said tasted like a Tuesday that turned into something worth remembering. I remembered. I always remembered. I got there at 7:15. Early, the way I always am. The hostess seated me, poured water, brought the wine. I sat and watched the door. 7:30 came and went. Then 7:45. I ordered bread I didn't want. Checked my phone twice. Told myself she was caught in traffic on 3:15. At 8 o'clock, the text arrived. Last-minute client emergency. So sorry. Don't wait up. Love you. Not even a happy birthday. Not one word. I sat with that for a moment. Just sat there, bread untouched, wine half gone, a candle burning between 2 place settings that would never both be used. I paid, left a tip that was probably too generous for a table I'd barely occupied, and walked out into an April night that had no business being as cold as it was. My phone buzzed before I reached my car. A charge notification. Our shared travel card, the one we kept open for hotels and flights because it earned triple miles. The charge read, Pinnacle Suites, Downtown Columbus. Suite 1408. R. Vaughan. Richard Vaughan. A name I knew. Naomi had worked with him 8 months ago on a major corporate account. Smooth man, late 50s, silver-haired, the kind of man who wore a watch that cost more than my first service truck and made sure you noticed. He'd shaken my hand at a firm event once and said, "Your wife is the sharpest mind in the room." At the time, I took it as a compliment. Suite 1408. Something about that number sat wrong with me. Like a door you know better than to open, but reach for anyway. I didn't go home. I drove downtown. Parked across the street from the Pinnacle. Cut the engine. And I waited. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't crying. I was completely, unnervingly still, the way a job site goes quiet right before something structural gives. 11 minutes later, the revolving door turned. And there she was. The dress, deep burgundy, sleeveless, the one I had bought her specifically for tonight. Her hair, which had been pinned up when she left that morning, was loose now. Deliberately loose. The way women arrange it when they want to look accidentally beautiful. She was laughing at something he'd said. And her hand was on his forearm like it belonged there. I raised my phone. One photo. Clear enough to matter. Then I opened our text thread and typed 6 words. Say hi to the man in 1408. I hit send. Watched the screen for exactly 3 seconds. put the car in reverse and drove home without looking back. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was something colder than anger. A kind of clarity that settles over you when the last piece of a puzzle clicks into place and the picture is exactly as bad as you feared. I'd built a business on reading structural problems before they became disasters. Turns out I was better at reading pipes than people. But I was a fast learner. She made it home in 14 minutes. I know because I checked the microwave clock the moment I heard her tires hit the driveway. 11:43 p.m. I had sent that text at 11:29. For a woman who was supposedly handling a client emergency, she covered ground fast. I was sitting in the armchair in the living room when the front door opened. No lights on except the lamp by the bookshelf. The TV was off. I had a glass of water in my hand and nothing on my face that she could read. Naomi stood in the doorway, still in the burgundy dress. One heel strap had come loose, dangling at her ankle like an afterthought. Her mascara had run in two thin lines beneath her eyes. She was clutching her phone with both hands the way you grip something when you're trying to keep your story from falling apart. "Oh," she said. I took a sip of water. Didn't answer. "I can explain." "I didn't ask," I said. That stopped her cold. She'd been braced for yelling. I could see it in her posture, that slight forward lean of a woman who had already rehearsed her defense against a version of me she expected. The version that got loud when he was hurt. She wasn't prepared for the version that had gone somewhere past loud, into something quieter and considerably more permanent. "You wore that dress for him," I said, when she tried again. "I bought it 3 weeks ago. I picked it out because you once told me burgundy was the color that made you feel like yourself." I kept my voice even. "You saved it for him. On my birthday." The color drained from her face. I pointed her to the guest room. No argument. No drama. Just a soft, decisive click of the master bedroom door, the kind of sound a well-built door makes when it shuts properly. The morning after, the man goes to work. I set my alarm for 6 a.m. I was at my bank by 9 o'clock. Not our bank, mine. The one where I'd kept a separate business account since the day I incorporated Harrington HVAC 20 years ago. Then I drove 3 blocks east to First Midland, where Claire Mercer had managed our joint accounts for 7 years. She stood to shake my hand the moment she saw my face. Whatever she read there told her this wasn't a routine visit. "I need to remove an authorized user from the joint card," I said, settling into the chair across from her. "And I need to separate the household savings account. Transfer my half to a new individual account. My name only. Pull up the travel card transaction history for the last 18 months, I added. "I want to see everything she booked." It took Claire 12 minutes to print the records. I went through them line by line. Hotels in 3 cities. Restaurant charges that didn't match any trip we'd taken together. 2 spa visits in February, when Naomi had told me she was at a conference in Cincinnati. The numbers told a story that was older and wider than one birthday dinner at the Pinnacle Suites. I thanked Claire, signed what needed signing, and walked out with a new debit card and a very clear picture of exactly how long I'd been the last to know. My next stop was Frank Doyle's office on High Street. Frank was 58, built like a man who'd played linebacker in college and never entirely stopped. He had the kind of legal mind that made opposing counsel visibly uncomfortable. He'd told me once over bourbon that the most expensive thing a man could do was get divorced without preparation. I hadn't laughed at the time, but I also hadn't imagined I'd ever need the advice. I slid the folder across his desk. Account statements. Property documents. The prenuptial agreement Naomi had signed 11 years ago over a dinner she called unnecessary but fine. She treated it like a formality. I had treated it like insurance. Frank read through everything without a word. When he got to the prenup, he set it down flat and looked at me with something close to professional admiration. "The infidelity clause is solid," he said. "Witnessed, notarized, filed correctly." He tapped the property pages. "The HVAC business, fully premarital. The lake house is held in a land trust set up after your father passed. Infidelity by either party, occupancy and beneficiary rights revert to the grantor immediately." "That's me," I said. Frank was quiet for a moment. Then he set down his pen. Elliot, you built a better legal wall around this marriage than most men build around their businesses. I build things for a living, I said. I know what happens when you skip the load-bearing parts. The call from Roy. The call that hit hardest didn't come from a lawyer. It came from Roy Caldwell, Naomi's father, 72 years old, 31 years with the Columbus Fire Department. A man who shook your hand like he was checking your structural integrity. She called me looking for sympathy, he said, his voice low and unhurried. She didn't get it. He told me I was the first thing Naomi had ever held onto that was actually worth holding. He told me she'd been chasing shiny things her whole life, and by the time she understood what she'd had, she had already let it go. I'm sorry, he said. She didn't know that until she had already let go. I sat in that parking lot with my coffee going cold and said nothing for a long time. There's something about hearing the truth from a man who has no reason to tell it, except that he believes it's right, that lands differently than anything else can. Avery comes home. Tyler called on Thursday. Avery called minutes later, before I could reach her, which told me Tyler had picked up his phone the moment we hung up. She came home that weekend with a carry-on bag, her mother's stubbornness, and her grandfather Roy's directness. She walked straight past Naomi, who had come downstairs the moment she heard the door, without a word, and hugged me in the kitchen for a long time without speaking. Then she went into the living room, sat across from Naomi, and said 4 words. I want your side. I stayed in the kitchen. The conversation lasted 40 minutes. I don't know everything that was said, but I know how it ended, because I heard Avery's footsteps come back down the hall, and I heard her pause outside the living room door, and I heard her say quietly, without drama, I love you, Mom. But I think you know what you did. The post went live on a Monday. I found it the way everyone else did, through a colleague who forwarded it with a 3-word message. You should see this. Sandra Vaughan had no profile photo. The account was 11 days old, created specifically for this purpose. The post itself was long, 11 paragraphs, single-spaced, the kind of writing that has been rewritten over several days until every word is precisely where she wants it. She didn't use names. She didn't have to. Anyone in Columbus's corporate consulting world who read past the 3rd paragraph knew exactly who and what she was describing. A client relationship that had become personal. A hotel suite billed to a corporate expense account. Internal firm communications showing a pattern of preferential treatment and ethical compromise. It ended with a single line. The people who are supposed to uphold professional standards should be held to them. Within 48 hours, it had been shared 400 times. I read it once, closed my laptop, and went back to reviewing a subcontractor invoice. Naomi comes to the kitchen. She appeared in the kitchen doorway at 8 a.m. Still in her robe. Hair undone. Phone clutched at her side. She looked like a woman who had woken up to find her house rearranged while she slept. Did you have anything to do with that post? I poured a second cup of coffee without turning around. No, I said. I imagine Sandra Vaughan had everything to do with it. This is going to destroy me professionally, she said, her voice thinning. My boss called before 7. HR wants a meeting. He said it looks like I created a liability for the firm. You did, I said. The look she gave me was the kind that, 6 months ago, would have made me walk it back. Soften it. Find something more diplomatic to say. Instead, I picked up my coffee cup and waited. I need you to tell them we were separated, she said. Tell HR this was a personal situation that got complicated. Please. Just give me something to slow this down. I set the cup down on the counter with a quiet click. You want me to lie to your employer so you keep your job? I want you to help me, she said. And her voice broke slightly on the last word in a way that sounded genuine. I know I don't deserve it. I know that. But I'm asking anyway. I looked at her for a long moment. She was still beautiful in the wreckage of herself. And that fact no longer moved me the way it once had. No, I said. I supported you through 2 job changes, 3 salary negotiations, and a licensing renewal that took 8 months. I proofread your presentations at 11 at night. I moved our vacation twice so you could close accounts. And when I needed you to show up for one evening, my birthday, you were 4 miles away in someone else's suite. I picked up my keys. Your career is not my responsibility to protect. The envelope. The certified envelope arrived the following Thursday morning. I was sitting at the kitchen table with my second cup of coffee when I heard the mail slot open. The sound of it landing on the hardwood was different from the usual flutter of bills and circulars, heavier, deliberate. The sound of something official announcing itself. I didn't move. Naomi was still asleep in the guest room. She'd been keeping late hours, phone calls past midnight, the muffled cadence of damage control conversations where every sentence is a negotiation and none of them end cleanly. I heard her wake at 8:40. The guest room door. The bathroom. The shuffle of slippered feet, and then a pause. She must have seen the envelope from the hallway. The silence that followed lasted almost 2 full minutes. By Friday, Naomi had been placed on unpaid administrative leave pending review. By the following week, she had retained an attorney. By the end of the month, she was no longer in the guest room. What came after? There is a particular kind of grief that doesn't announce itself. It doesn't throw things. It doesn't demand an audience. It simply settles into your chest like a stone, cold and certain, and you carry it while you do ordinary things: drive, eat, talk to clients, sign paperwork. It doesn't weigh you down so much as it holds you steady. I worked. I cooked dinner. I called my kids. Tyler came home for a weekend in May and we worked in the garage together on a Saturday, not talking about much, just being in the same space the way fathers and sons sometimes need to be. Avery called every Sunday evening. We talked about her design projects, about Denver, about the restaurant she discovered that reminded her of Brickstone Grill. She never brought Naomi up unless I did. She was learning, at 19, that some things have to be allowed to settle before you can see them clearly. Roy came to Columbus in June, the way he said he would. We ate lunch at a diner near his hotel, Turkey Club, black coffee, and talked for 2 hours about everything except the thing that had brought him here. By the end, he put a hand briefly on my shoulder and said, "She knows what she lost. That's not nothing." I told him it was enough. Closing. I'm not telling you this story because I want sympathy. I don't need it. I'm telling it because I spent 21 years being a man who built things, structures meant to last, systems designed to hold weight, and somehow never thought to apply that same attention to the thing that mattered most. I checked the pipes. I didn't check the foundation. If you're a man sitting somewhere right now, wondering if you've been missing something, not because your wife is doing what Naomi did, but because somewhere along the way you stopped paying attention, this is your reminder. The most important structure in your life is not your business. It's not your reputation. It's not your bank account. It's the quiet, daily choice to show up for the people you love, before they stop expecting you to. I learned that in an empty restaurant on my birthday, with a candle burning between 2 place settings and only one of them occupied. I won't forget it again. Speech balloon if this story moved you, if it made you think, feel, or look differently at something in your own life, please subscribe to this channel. Leave a comment below telling us what part hit you hardest. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Stories like Elliot's don't just entertain, they hold up a mirror. And sometimes, that's exactly what we need. Herb the life lesson. A man can build an empire with his hands and still lose everything because he forgot to protect what mattered most. Love is not a foundation that holds itself. It requires the same attention, the same daily maintenance, the same honest inspection that you would give anything else you want to last. The greatest mistake is not being betrayed. It's stopping to notice until it's too late. Pay attention. Show up. And never, not once, let the people you love feel like they come second to everything else.